Hey everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of fixing up the Fargo. Today we're going to start doing some stuff on the engine. So last time we left off, we basically got everything cleaned up, shined up. The paint's still soaking in, it's looking better every day. It needs a while for this stuff to dull out because when you first put it on, it's so shiny, it looks crappy. So we got a lot of stuff to do on it yet, but we're going to try and do what we've all been waiting for and see if this engine will start, because I'm really curious if it will. I really hope it runs. It turns over very freely. I believe all the valves are not seized. I can see the intakes going up and down through the spark plug holes, but I don't know about the exhaust, so hopefully they're not stuck. And I've, as you can see, have religiously oiled everything. So it spins over very freely, so let's hope that we're good. So I'm going to check and see if we have 6 volts to our coil, and I got to make up a spark plug wire. We got to get the plugs back in. I couldn't find any plugs locally, so I decided I'm just going to clean up the old ones the best I can with a wire wheel and do all that jazz and go from there. And if we get spark, we'll try and spray it and see if it fires up. That'd be really nice if it does. So let's get to it. Well, we got good spark all through, just cleaned up them points and set the gap there. Put the plugs back in, and I just off camera, you know, or on camera there, I tightened up took the boots off the plugs so I could get a good connection on there because they were loose and wore out. I just spun it over, good oil pressure, but there is no compression. So, you know, even if it doesn't have the best compression, we got to have some stuck valves, I guarantee it. So we're gonna have to do what I knew I was gonna have to do the whole time along. We'll yank the head quick and look in there. That's the beauty of a flathead. So let's get to it. Okay, well that head just launched off of there as you seen. I couldn't believe it wasn't stuck. Good old copper gasket. We're gonna take this off, get the wire wheel in there and start doing some cleaning and lubing and tapping, and hopefully we can get this sucker running. Looks like there's a few dead bugs in there, but no rust, so that is good. So just finished with grinding off the head there, wire wheeling it, cleaning it up. There wasn't as much carbon in there as I thought, so that's really good. I had you guys watching, but the camera shut off. I had to free up some storage. I've been taking more footage. I got hours and hours of footage on here. The head, everything came off there, as you can see, really easy. In the gasket, it's just an old copper gasket. I'll reuse that. Valves look good. It looks like that valve, I thought it was tool up, like it was pulled in, like from an issue, but it doesn't look like that to me now. It looks like somebody may have replaced that at one time. We got one valve there, I believe, an exhaust, and 2 exhaust over there that are froze up. They will go up and down. I just give them a little tap with a hammer and they suck in. After a soak all night, let's see if all these valves are free now. good. With all the valves free, I went ahead off camera there and just gave it a quick touch up with the wire wheel here, cleaned off the carbon off the valves and everything, lubed up the guides and made sure everything was gonna go up and down smooth, because just because they're going up and down doesn't mean that it has much spring tension. That spring tension might be just able to pull the valve in, so we wanted to make sure that they're loose enough. So I cleaned up all the rust, anything that was in there. There's still a little bit of carbon deposits in a couple spots, which isn't gonna make any difference. The gasket, you know, just an old copper gasket, still got nice ridges on everything. We're just gonna slap it back on and see if this sucker starts up for us. Head's back on. The cylinders and pistons are just getting soaked with Deep Creep by Seafoam right now, or Seafoam Deep Creep. I don't know why I said it like that. Anyways, it's getting soaked because those rings are definitely stuck, and I don't want to pull this apart if I don't have to. You can see when it was coming up, it wasn't scraping my oil off real nice, so I know that the rings are stuck. So we're gonna soak that hopefully overnight, but for now it can sit and the battery needs to charge. So the paint's faded in really good. You can tell, you know, that's original paint or maybe a repaint back in the day. This is factory, and you can see where they blended it back in the day from there to there. There's Bondo there and there. Doesn't feel very thick or anything. I mean, it is what it is in the end, but I hope I can find some more rims and tires like that, because that'd be sweet if they were all around. It would make this thing look beautiful. But we're off to the inside, so let's clean the windshield and the seat, get all this crap cleaned out of here, clean the door panels. I ripped off the other door panels. I hate it too because they were in here and they look good, but they were so gross and stinky. So they're gone. I'd rather have a good smelling truck. And that dash, everything will be nice to have cleaned up. So tag along and watch. Okay, with the interior all cleaned, we let this sucker soak for the night. It was not building the most compression, but I feel it will free up. The valves all look good after I had the head off and back on and torqued down. But the thing is that the compression's only good on a few cylinders. I could tell that the rings weren't scraping right, so we got to get this thing running so we can, I feel that the rings will free up once it gets running and gets some heat into it. But so we're just gonna use some of the good old brake clean to spare in the intake and see what she does. Oh yeah. It's a good candidate for backfiring with it not running right, just so you know. Is it a spark or not? Okay, we just quickly yanked the head and cleaned up the valves. There was a few of them that weren't seating quite right because of corrosion, so I got in there and just sanded them a little bit to get the valve to seat, and we're seating real tight now, so we should have good compression. The compression was only 30 psi or something, and it wasn't going to improve, so we decided to yank the head. So I'll slap that back on and let's see if she'll fire now. We have turned to the mystery oil. The valves seem all right. Everything seems fine. I think those rings are stuck and we're not building compression. That's why you guys can hear it firing, but she just won't go. Everything looks good in the cylinders, so we're just gonna be patient and soak it. So let's get on to the bed. What do we gotta do here? My plan is to go find some wood tomorrow, so I thought I'd prep it tonight. It looks like my one cross member had a bit of a bend in it there, and off camera I just gave it a little torque.
so it's good. It's obviously sitting on an angle right now. This one's pretty good. It had a little rip out of it right there where a board ripped out or a bolt or whatever. Anyways, it's fine. The back bumper here though, I'm just adding a little bit of tension to it because when I looked straight down here, it had just a little bit of a wow in here. So I want to make sure that it's good. So I'm going to give that a couple whacks with a hammer, and then we're just going to cut out these bolts unless I can get them free, which I highly doubt it. But if I can get them free, we'll take them out and cut out the rest of our bolts along here, and we'll be ready for wood tomorrow. Just mapping out our bed right now. These two are holes for here. That cross member floats on rubber pads and then it bolts up there. So I'm just mapping out our bolt holes. We've squared everything up pretty good. And as you can see, we have that front straightened now. We're just taking some measurements, cutting these boards. Went down to the grain elevator and cut them like our last fashioned video there. And I love the look, like I said, so we're doing it again. All laid out, just screwed the back and the front, made sure it was square. Now I'm gonna go over and get some bolts, go down to the hardware store and get them and carriage bolt this. We're gonna do the floating cross member first, screw them. I just pre-drilled into the steel, put wood screws in, holds it nice and tight. Nothing wrong with that. Looks excellent. I can't wait to get the tailgate on. We gotta do a bit of straightening on it and get that back on. It's gonna look really good. With the bedwood now replaced, we have pushed the truck back and cleaned the floor, and our mystery oil, Marvel mystery oil, has soaked in and it actually went past the rings, which I think is good. That's what we want, so it actually gets down and around them, otherwise just sitting on top. So I know some heat would help this engine, so what I did was I actually wired up, I fixed up the old block heater cord that was in here, and we're just getting it hot, and I put some transmission fluid in there. So we're 108 there, and towards the back she's getting, it's getting there, 90 degrees. So yeah, see, it was about 70, about our inside temperature here. So as you come up to the front though, yeah, it's getting there. So we're gonna let this soak again overnight, suck it all out. And I think we're gonna be good to go tomorrow. We'll see if she fires, but with this heat getting into the block, I think the heat, the mystery oil, and some transmission fluid will hopefully heat up those rings and get them to break loose, because instantly out of the breather here, I could see it pushing out blow by. Okay, next morning, I just got done sucking out the ATF, and we're working on our pistons. So before these were seized and they had no play, I don't know if you guys can see it, but you know, especially on an old worn out engine like this, I should be able to slide them back and forth, my pistons. I don't know if you can see it there, but they're starting to move. So I just went around with air pressure and cleaned out the ring in here and some brake cleaner. Now I'm gonna put some deep creep in there and work the piston back and forth a little bit to make sure those piston rings are cleaned up. You guys think the engine's gonna start today? Oh yeah. Firing. Oh, that'll do it. Our throttle cable ain't hooked up. Okay, so just a little bit of an experimentation here. I have these ratchet straps to the other side of the cab because I measured my cab and it's 24.5 inches on the passenger side, and on this side it's 25 inches because of how this is bent out. It gains a ½ inch, so we got to bring it back in. So I'm just going to go another couple notches on these straps and we're going to go check it because it's under so much tension. It's gonna pop back, so we'll check and see first. But I like pulling on stuff if it's possible, just because it saves wailing on it with a hammer, and usually under high stress corners and stuff like this, I've learned in the small amount of body work I've done, that's just what it requires. Well, when I put the head on, she fired up quick. I didn't get it on camera. My camera fell over. Anyways, a few cylinders have compression and a couple others don't. It's got really bad blow-by. So for the time it takes, I'm just gonna yank the oil pan and look below. And if I have to undo a connecting rod, shoot a piston up through and clean up the rings, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, so I got all the bolts out except this one I gotta get a wrench for. But that took me a whole 2 minutes. I should have just done this. For the time it took to soak it, I could have just yanked these pistons out. So let's see. What do we got? A spring? What do you think that's from? Fuel pump? Would that be from a fuel pump gone bad? And ooh, yeah, definitely. That's a fuel pump arm right there. So I bet the fuel pump went bad. That would have been the spring from it. That's the lever. It broke off. There it laid in the pan. So anyways, otherwise the pan doesn't look too bad. Let's look underneath. Okay, so overall, I don't know if you guys can see it, but our bores or our cylinders all look good back here, as they did up top and up front as well. So how about, I think I'm gonna turn this crank down and we'll start. Why don't we start with the back one, and I'll mark these connecting rods here and we'll pull these bolts and shoot that connecting rod or shoot that piston up and see what it looks like. Okay, pistons on the bench. Our upper rings, this is our best piston. This cylinder had about 90 psi of compression. Our 2 compression rings look good, but our oil ring is stuck. And what will happen is that's going to hold the piston to one side of the cylinder too, in these old worn out cylinders. So like I said, this is our best piston, our best cylinder for compression. All of our wrist pin bearings and stuff are tight. Our main bearing has a bit of wear in there, but it's smooth, no scratches. So we'll clean this up and put her back together. So I'll see if I can get these lands cleaned up, and we'll go from there. Okay, so apparently we didn't get all that on video again of us pulling out the pistons, but here we go. First one to the front. That ring's fine. Compression rings are fine. Nice and tight. All the bearings look really good. Our second one in, that one actually had good compression. Our second one in, is it this one? Compression rings are good. Oil ring really isn't even stuck. Yeah, there's some gunk in there preventing it from, yeah. Anyways, not the greatest. Cylinder 3. Good. Cylinder 4. There's something here that's a little different. We got a broken ring. Main compression ring, secondary ring. Yeah, this doesn't feel too hot. It feels like it's almost broken. Anyways, that's that. Oil ring is completely stuck. Cylinder 5, same thing, broken ring. And cylinder 6, well, that was the best one, and it is what it is. Cylinders look good, and there really wasn't a ridge. I was able to just push the pistons right up the top, so that's good. That leads me to think that they aren't too worn. Anyways, so can we get away with a hone and some new rings? That's the question. That is the big question. For an engine like this, I'm not going to put too much effort into it, you know. But I have a hone we can hone it out with and toss some rings in and see what we can do. But yeah, I mean, all the cylinders are nice. The crank journals are good. You know, everything's nice and tight. The rod bearings are good. So what's the verdict? What do we do? Pistons aren't that bad either. So the thing is, it's a budget build. We're not gonna rebuild this motor. We'll just buy a new one that's rebuilt, or that's good, and slap it in because it doesn't take long. But for the amount of time, like, it's only been an hour to pull that pan and these pistons, and now we know what we got. So I think I'm gonna leave the video here with that one, but again, sorry for the disappointment that we did not get to starting this thing. I really wanted to start it. I mean, you heard it pop off and stuff, but it didn't run. And that's because of what we just found here. So let me know what you guys think, but stay tuned. I'm gonna make up my mind here, and maybe the next video we'll have a new engine coming. Maybe we'll be rebuilding. I'll see what parts readily available are like. And maybe Joe down the road has one sitting in his back garage, and we're gonna go and have it slapped in next time, and we're gonna be running and take this thing for a burn. So for now, thanks for watching, guys, and please tune in next time. And this is part 2 of the Fargo rebuild.